Hi, and welcome to Occupy Ukiah TV for July 6, 2012. I'm Charlie Vaughn. Good to be back in the studio. We've been off for a couple weeks, and this is show number 16. And as always, these are the best of times. These are the worst of times. And that's why we're here. We're here to celebrate. We're also here to activate. Let's go through our introduction today. We're going to be talking about our Localize Your Money public forum that's going to be on July 14th. We have a video about B of A, a pretty interesting video from the Young Turks. I'm going to be talking a little update about my visit to the City Council, the Ukiah City Council. And then we're going to be talking about a July 30th speech that's going to be given here in Ukiah by a Japanese man named Yastel Yamada. Very interesting man. We are very fortunate to have him come to our little town, and I'll be telling you why. And then we're going to have a new video, music video, from Crosby, Stills, and Nash. It's regarding nuclear energy. It's called Don't Dig Here. And at the end of the video, you're going to see a lot of websites that you can go to for information about nuclear. And if you want that, I can give it to you. Anyway, let's move right on. Let's talk about our July 14th Localize Your Money Day. Let me pull up the poster for that. All right, here. Let's go to the blue screen. And there's the poster. It's going to be at Alex Thomas Plaza. It's going to be Saturday, July 14th. At 11 a.m., we're going to have a public forum, and we'll have some scheduled speakers. At noon, we'll be marching to B of A and Wells Fargo and Chase. And then after the march, we'll be having a potluck. And then we'll open the mic up to anybody who wants to come and speak. We'll give you about 3 minutes. We basically see this as an educational forum. We'll be talking about, that you see here, bad banking practices and foreclosures, nonprofit credit unions versus commercial banks, Public Bank of North Dakota model, and economic localization. And to keep track of any more information on this that may come up, go to our occupyukiah.info, and you can always be up to date. Tom Ray does a great job of updating our website, and I'm always really impressed with how well he does. So let's see now. We're going to have the scheduled speakers that we're going to have coming up at 11 o'clock at that action are John Sakowitz, who is known on KZYX for the show All About the Money. His previous show used to be called The Truth About Money, and he is a man who worked for 30 years on the floor of the Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street there. He knows all about money. He knows the ins and the outs. He knows how they do the dirty deals, and he's quite savvy. And I had a nice conversation on the phone with him, and he came up with just some brilliant ideas that I think you're going to be interested in about investing in our local economy here, which our main local economy is farming. We got all this wonderful farmland for vegetables, for grapes, and he even mentioned unionizing the marijuana workers, which is a very interesting concept. I don't know whether he'll bring that up, but it's something that people need to be talking about. We need to bring that economy up to the surface and have it out in the front. But anyway, I digress. Our other speakers will be Scott Craddy. He's the Ukiah Farmers Market Manager. Very interesting guy. He also owns the Renaissance Market over on Clay Street, which is getting a signal there from Alex in the booth. There's my camera. He owns the Renaissance Market on Clay Street, which is the last local neighborhood market in Ukiah, and it's a really sweet place. He's a very cool guy and very worth listening to. Our next speaker is going to be Holly Madrigal, the former mayor of Willits, and she's going to be talking about Willits economic localization, and she's always worth listening to. Then next is somebody I don't know a whole lot about named Ron Cole, and he is going to talk about Mendocino Economic Development Trust. I guess he gives people a lot of help with business plans and such. And he's also very involved in the biochar movement in gardening, which is a very exciting thing. I don't think he'll be talking about that at the event, but maybe you can pull him aside. Biochar is really quite a phenomenal discovery in the world of gardening. And then our next speaker will be Bart Kaplan. He's a member of Occupy Ukiah, and he's going to be talking about the public bank models like the North Dakota model, the North Dakota State Bank, which, when all the crap hit the fan in 2008 and the economy went down, every single state in the country was running a deficit, except for North Dakota. They are the only one that has made it through, and their economy is doing quite well. So a lot of people owe it to that public bank. And so he's going to be talking a bit about that. And then Tom Ray from Occupy Ukiah also is just going to be talking about bank practices. And he's always worth listening to. Very bright guy, and I'm sure he'll have some interesting stuff to say. I'm not exactly sure what it'll be, but it'll be worth it. So that should be a great lineup of scheduled speakers. And then we will be gathering up our signs. We'll be marching to Bank of America and Wells Fargo and Chase, and we will be encouraging people to move their money from B of A, from Chase, from Wells Fargo. Now, why would we do that? Well, there's been such amazing news coverage for the last 4 years on how these banks swindled us right in front of us, right under our noses. It wasn't kept secret. And we've exposed all kinds of crimes and fraud and really dirty practices that the banks did. Nobody's been sent to jail yet. Nobody's been prosecuted. Nobody's even been taken to court. That makes a lot of people very angry. I've talked to plenty of people. You have. I'm sure you know people who are angry about the situation with the banks. Well, if you're angry and if the government, if we can't get them to do anything about it, which we're working on, we want to bring people to justice. But in the meantime, if you have your money in one of these banks, you can move it. Speak with your dollars. That's probably the loudest vote that you can cast. Take your money out. Tell them exactly why you're doing it. You don't want to support their practices anymore. Let's reduce the size of Bank of America. If they're too big to fail, then really they're too big to exist. So I know that if we move, some number of people in Ukiah move their money, it's not going to take Bank of America down. But if we start a movement across the country to take your money out of these big banks, they will sit up and listen. And I think it's a very positive thing to reduce the size of these banks that are too big to fail. And localize your money. Invest in local credit unions and savings banks, and they also invest your money in local projects. So that's going to be a pretty good thing, and you're going to be seeing more public forums from Occupy Ukiah in the future. It seems to be something that's really in need in our world today, is civil discourse in public. So much of what we see on TV, the Republicans and the Democrats and everybody on the sides and in between can't even talk to each other anymore without name calling and just, really, you look at the political ads, it's just reduced to the gutter. It's so valuable for us to be able to gather in public with diverse ideas and speak our minds and listen to each other. So if you disagree with the idea of localizing your money, if you disagree with the idea of taking your money out of B of A, come and step up to the mic and have your say. And we will listen to you because we are trying to represent the 99%. And the 99% is a very, very wide spectrum of views. So we are open to listening to everyone. And we hope that you are open to listening to anybody who may be speaking that day. That's what it's all about, is sharing our views and then finding out how we can commonly work together to improve things. I don't think anybody would disagree that we need to improve things. The question is how. Okay, so we're actually going to go on to a B of A video. This is related. This is from a show that you see on TV called The Young Turks. This is on YouTube, and it's about almost 6 minutes long. And I forget the guy's name. It's a very interesting name. You'll see it on the lower third there on the screen. And I won't talk any more about it. We will just let her rip.
Great story in the New York Times today from Gretchen Morgenson about Bank of America executives and what they told their shareholders about the Merrill Lynch merger that they were going to do in December of 2008. Well, it turns out that they gave the shareholders some numbers, which turned out to be inaccurate. And before the shareholders were going to vote on it, they got a different set of numbers, which showed that Merrill Lynch was actually going to lose a lot more money. But Ken Lewis, the CEO at the time, wanted to plow ahead with the merger. He was very interested in playing with the big boys and becoming one of the biggest banks on Wall Street. And he had been on a mad spree to buy out others even before the 2008 crisis. And they suggested that they pay $50 billion to buy Merrill Lynch. The shareholders approved it. Now, here's the problem. March 27th of this year, 2012. Ken Lewis was being deposed in a shareholder lawsuit. By the way, why was there a lawsuit? Because apparently because of the wrong numbers that the shareholders were given, the bank, within a couple of weeks of finding out what Merrill Lynch's real numbers were, lost nearly half of its value, losing about $50 billion of shareholder value. Now, that's a disaster, and it cost the shareholders. Remember, the owners of Bank of America a tremendous amount of money. Now, did Ken Lewis know or not? Well, that takes us to the March 27th deposition. Well, he was being deposed, and they said, did you know that those numbers that you were giving in to the shareholders were the wrong numbers? And he says, quote, "They were not those numbers, no," meaning they were not the real numbers. There he is in sworn testimony, admitting we gave the wrong numbers to the shareholders on purpose. Now, that is a significant criminal violation. That is fraud. Now, and he's not defrauding the taxpayers, even though, of course, eventually they did take $20 billion extra from the taxpayers because of the disaster situation that Merrill Lynch was in. So we all got screwed. But mainly, he's screwing over the owners of his own company because his interests are not aligned with their interests. He wants to grow bigger. He wants to do well in the short term. If the shareholders take a bath later, well, that's their problem, not necessarily Ken Lewis's problem. And so he deceived them. Now, how do I know that it's criminal? Well, don't take my word for it. Jeffrey J. Brown was the bank's former treasurer, and he told Joe Price, who was Bank of America's chief financial officer at the time, after hearing about the new numbers that were much worse for Merrill Lynch, he said, the failure to disclose, quote, could be a criminal offense, stating that he did not want to be talking through a glass wall over a telephone if no disclosure was made. That is according to the filings in the legal case. In other words, here's the treasurer telling the CFO, this is possibly criminal. Let's not do this. You got to tell the shareholders what the real Merrill Lynch numbers are. He is, of course, totally ignored. They don't share the real numbers. This is right after a December 3rd meeting where all the executives, including Ken Lewis, also were told about the numbers and how they were starkly different than what the public was letting known and what the proxy statement told to the shareholders, okay? And then one final piece of the puzzle, Timothy Mayopoulos was Bank of America's general counsel, and he was on the board. When he saw this, give him a lot of credit, he expressed surprise at the amount of loss that Merrill Lynch was going to suffer, and he said he had not been told about it, and he tried to speak to the chief financial officer, that's again the same Joe Price, about the possibility of disclosing the losses. Here's what happened. They take their own general counsel that's on the board. They go, oh, you want to talk about those possible losses? You're fired. In fact, you don't even have an opportunity to clean out your desk. He was escorted from the building. Now, you tell me whether you think that is a cover-up or not. Look, on the surface, it seems obvious. They have the numbers. They wouldn't share it with their shareholders. That is fraud. Their own general counsel said don't do it. Their own treasurer said it's possibly criminal. They ignored them, and they fired the latter, or they fired the general counsel, I should say, and get him out of the building as quickly as possible. Now, Obama administration always says, oh, well, there were some actions that were taken, but they're not necessarily criminal. There's nothing we could do. We're not going to prosecute any of the bankers. But here's an action that appears to be clearly criminal. You even have the CEO admitting in a deposition, well, yeah, I knew the real numbers and I didn't tell the shareholders, okay? At the very least, civil fraud. Very, very least. Will they actually go after Bank of America? Only time will tell. But if history is any guide at all, the answer is absolutely not. They'll go after, minor people like John Edwards on trumped-up charges galore. They'll go after, anybody they think is easy political prey, including some other people on Wall Street that are not as politically connected, that don't make as many political contributions. When it comes to the big bankers who run Washington, as Dick Durbin once famously said, the senator from from Illinois, well, they're going to leave those guys alone. Here it is. You have a clear case. What are you going to do about it? My guess is not a damn thing. So when I ask, hey, how can anybody possibly think that Mitt Romney is on the side of the little guy and is not representing the billionaires? A lot of people say, well, you're right. Nobody can possibly think that. But they also can't possibly believe that Obama's on the side of the little guy. When it comes to protecting bankers, Obama's done a terrific job at it.
All right. Well, that says just about all you need to know about that little wonderful episode in Bank of America's recent history. That's why we're marching to the bank. Things like that. And if you watched our previous show with C.J. Holmes, the 2-hour show about foreclosures, she also pointed out some of the wonderful things that Bank of America did around foreclosures. These people are not interested in you and me. They are interested in making huge profits, and they will commit crimes in public to do it. And who cares? Because they've got all the pockets of the politicians stuffed with nice bucks. Anyway, that's an interesting video. There will be more information regarding banks coming up at our action, and I'm going to move on now. I went to the city council. I'm trying to remember when I did it. I believe it was on May 30th that I went to our Ukiah City Council, and I spoke with them regarding the Fukushima disaster. And if you recall, I talked about on this show a month and a half ago how 72 organizations in Japan wrote a letter to the United Nations urgently asking for the United Nations to hold a nuclear summit and gather as many of the best engineers in the world together to help them with the situation at Fukushima Unit Number 4, which is in dire straits. It's possibly going to collapse if there's another earthquake, if there's a typhoon. We could have something that is 10 times worse than Chernobyl. And they were requesting that the United Nations help. I contacted the White House and said, what is America doing to help? I just want to know. They sent me back a nothing, ridiculous, stupid response. So frankly, there's nothing you're going to get out of the White House. So I went to the city council here and thought, all right, let's start local. And I said, would you please, with me, write up a letter and sign a letter to urge our legislators and the White House to help with the Fukushima disaster. And I went to the city council and asked if they would join in on that. And they said, oh, well, we're very interested in that. Can you give us a copy of the letter? And can you give us a copy of the website that it came from? And then I got email from the clerk, I believe it was. We're interested. Never heard a word back from him. Never heard anything. Zip, zero, total silence. That's our city. So I'm going back. I just want to let you know, because I told you I was going to let you know the results of that. I'm going back, and I'm going to put more pressure on them, and I'm going to tell them, look, I want to share on the TV show here, on our Occupy Ukiah TV show, that our city council is concerned with these things and would at least go the inch to write a letter. I'm barely asking for anything. I know that they're busy. We're all busy. But I'm going to go back and talk to them about, actually the next thing that's coming up is this man coming from Japan. And I will jump right into that. So anyway, I'll keep you updated on the city council and my dealings with them. So the next thing, which is directly related, on July 30th, Occupy Ukiah and a couple other organizations, it's on the poster here, I will bring it up in a minute, is going to be sponsoring a man called Yastel Yamada. And he is from Japan. He's an elder from Japan. He's 72 years old. And Yastel Yamada is a very interesting person. He has started an organization, which I'm going to bring up the press release now. Let's look at the flyer. Fukushima Denial or Awareness. Please join Yastel Yamada, founder of Skilled Veterans Corps for Fukushima, and local concerned organizations in raising the awareness of the ongoing danger at the Fukushima nuclear power plant, the offer of retired engineers to help, and the need for international support in the face of the Japanese government opposition. He'll be here Monday, July 30th at 7 p.m. He's going to be at the Methodist Church right there on Bush Street. And then there will be a question and answer and discussion period afterward. Admission is free. Donations are accepted. It'll be co-sponsored by Fukushima Response, the United Methodist Church, Ukiah United Methodist Church, Mendocino Environmental Center, and Occupy Ukiah. There will be a live on-air feed from KMEC Radio, and it will also be videotaped for later viewing on Channel 3. And also, I've been granted a half-hour interview with Mr. Yamada right before he does his speech here in Ukiah, which I'm really, really grateful for. What he is volunteering to do is to get involved in the cleanup process in Fukushima. There's a picture of this guy. He's a retired engineer. And the reason why he's trying to get elderly people to do this is because when you get exposed to high levels of radiation, it takes maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30 years to get leukemia, bone cancer, or any of the other soft tissue cancers that you can end up with. And they figure, well, if I'm in my 70s, then it's okay if I get cancer at the end of my life, or maybe I'll die before I get it. But what they're doing is volunteering to do some of the dirty work that the young people should not have to do. And he is coming to speak about his experience, and I'm very thrilled. He's on a national tour. He's been interviewed by CNN that I did see, and probably all the other networks. I doubt if Fox was interested. The BBC interviewed him. He's been getting a lot of attention, and I will read our press release here. Mr. Yastel Yamada, a retired engineer and founder of the Fukushima Skilled Veterans Corps, will speak in Ukiah on July 30th about repairing the failing cooling system at the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan. He will be joined by local advocates who will speak on the status of nuclear power and the anti-nuclear activism in California. The event will be held at the Ukiah Unified Methodist Church Social Hall beginning at 7. Question and answer period will follow. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant was heavily damaged by the earthquake tsunami that hit Japan in 2011. In addition to the uranium fuel rods that were used at the time of the disaster, the plant also stores hundreds of used fuel rods in water-filled cooling chambers that are beginning to fail. Mr. Yamada, 72, is eager for a chance to help. After seeing hundreds of younger men on television struggle to control the damage at the Daiichi plant, Mr. Yamada struck on an idea. Recruit the older engineers and other specialists to help tame the rogue reactors. Not only do they have the skills needed, but because of their advanced age, they are at less risk of getting cancer and other diseases that develop slowly as a result of exposure to high levels of radiation. Their volunteering would spare younger Japanese from dangers that could leave them childless or worse. We have to contain this accident, and for that, someone should do the work, said Mr. Yamada, a retired plant engineer who had worked for Sumitomo Metal Industries. It would benefit society if the older generation took the job because we will get less damage from working there. The Japanese government has so far refused the offer of help from the Skilled Veterans Corps. I think that they are now interested. Mr. Yamada's United States tour is being sponsored by Fukushima Response, a group of concerned individuals working together to demand an international response to the dangers currently posed by the crisis at Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. His appearance in Ukiah is being co-sponsored by the Ukiah United Methodist Church, the Mendocino Environmental Center, and Occupy Ukiah. The event will be broadcast live. I think I told you all this. So pretty much that's the story. I have some questions for him that are not answered in this press release, and so far I have not been able to find any information to answer the questions. So I'm very anxious to talk to this man, because from what I've heard, the radiation is so intense. I've read several articles on this. The radiation's so intense it's burning out the robots that they're sending in to do repairs. So I'm curious to know how they can send people in there. I'd like to know some of these details, and hopefully in the interview and his speech later, some of these questions will be answered. I have lots of questions. I'm very interested in talking to him. And I just want you to think for a moment about the situation that this man is in. He is offering to take the damage, the radiation damage that's put out by these reactors, instead of having younger people do it, because he is towards the end of his life and it's less damage to him. If he gets a cancer or something, so be it. He's old enough, or maybe he won't get it before he dies. Do you want to have a situation like that here in America? How would that feel to you if we had an earthquake that caused the Diablo Canyon reactor to melt down, or the stored fuel that is up in Eureka, not far from us? One tsunami or earthquake the size of the one in Fukushima could put us in the same situation of huge amounts of radiation being released. Would you like to have your grandfather or your father or your favorite old person down the street or elder person, and women are volunteering too, would you like to be in that situation of seeing them go off to work on these plants and take on a heavy radiation dose? It's a horrible situation to be faced with. And it's so important that we go and listen to this man. He is so brave. And I want us to all think about what an insane situation for us to be in, that we have these reactors here on our coast, 104 of them here in the United States alone. The eastern seaboard is littered with them. What an insane situation that we go about our daily business totally calmly. We have children, we plan for the future, we plan for great-grandchildren, when all of their lives may be threatened by one earthquake or tsunami or terrorist or whatever might happen that we hadn't thought about. It's really time for us to take the first steps, the second steps, the third steps, to not give up, to work towards shutting down all of the reactors and setting up a clean energy system. It's not out of our reach. There is way more solar available than we could ever possibly use. The perfect nuclear reactor is 93 million miles away from us, and you'll get a sunburn from it if you're out in the sun too long. That's the distance you want to be from nuclear fission. Anyway, One more item about that is they had a huge demonstration in Tokyo regarding nuclear energy. They want to fire up one of the nuclear reactors in Japan. Japan is has the third most nuclear reactors in the world. They have 54 in their country. If I'm not mistaken, it's 50 something. I think it's 54. In that tiny little island, 54 nuclear reactors. Well, after the Fukushima disaster, they shut them all down. And Japan has been functioning. They have the lights on. They've been going about their business without nuclear energy. Well, they want to turn one of them on. They want to restart one of them because they're afraid of some power shortages this summer. There was an enormous demonstration in Tokyo. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people showed up to protest turning on this one nuclear reactor. I would think that we would feel the same way, and I would like to see us start to gather our energy, come to our Occupy Ukiah meetings, or join an anti-nuclear group. We've got to get a grip on things because people in Japan now know better, and they're learning it the hard way. And I don't want us to have to go through any harder lessons than we've already gone through, which are some pretty big ones. And the question is, how did they manage to run the lights and do all that with all of their reactors off? How necessary are those reactors now? So we're going to move on. Let's move to our last item here. We're going to play a video from Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and it's called "Don't Dig Here." Now they didn't write it, but one of the guys who wrote it is playing with them, and he will be named at the end of the video. They'll tell who wrote it. They'll tell who performed on the video, and at the end of the video, you're going to see a long string of different sites that you can go to for information about nuclear energy. They're going to come on pretty fast. I had to stop and start it to write them all down. If you're interested in these sites, if you want to get involved, give me a call at 367-2194 or come to our GA on Saturday at 10 o'clock at Alex Thomas Plaza. You'll see our canopy, or come to our direct action meeting Sundays at 11 at the MEC, and I can give you these sites, and we can work together. We've got a working group who is working towards shutting down nuclear power in our world today. It's a huge job. We need every single person involved that we can possibly get. So that's enough from me. Let's listen to Crosby, Stills, and Nash, called "Don't Dig Here."
I hope you're coming in peace with good
All right. That was Crosby, Stills, and Nash with Don't Dig Here. I think that about says it all. We're going to finish up today with our Howard Zinn quote. And it's in this enormous format. I'm going to have to make it smaller. I can't read it. One moment here. Excuse me. There we go. One more click. So our Howard Zinn quote for the day: nationalism is a set of beliefs taught to each generation in which the motherland or fatherland is an object of veneration and becomes a burning cause for which one becomes willing to kill the children of other motherlands and fatherlands. That's Howard Zinn. And that's all for today. It's been great being back. Hope to see you at our General Assemblies. We've got our July 14th. If you see this on Sunday, the next General Assembly will be our July 14th action at Alex Thomas Park, starting at 11 o'clock, and I hope to see you there. So for now, this is Charlie Vaughn signing off, and I'll see you around town.